And we are live. Welcome back to LRG Podcast, where we cover everything live reality game related. We appreciate you being here tonight. It is a busy night for live games. We just wrapped up a Survivor LU Season 2 cast assessment. We have great things on its way too. We have a Survivor breakdown with Survivor Michigan All-Stars. Super excited to see that show hit this fall. And tonight, we are talking about the first live game to happen this season here in the States and North America in general. We are talking about who is the mole. And to answer that question, the answer is Missy Bird right here. Missy, welcome.
I wish we had a more thunderous round of applause, but
for the folks tuning in, we do have a full studio audience in the background with people applauding right now. Nobody can really see except for me, but everyone, especially Katie, is going crazy right now about who the mole was. Ryan is like rocking it out as well. Also, somebody rocking it out tonight, Jamie, welcome back.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
As the lead production person, congratulations on the first season. Is this a big sigh of relief? Are you still hyped up, ready to go? Season 1, what's your feelings?
It's a bit of everything, honestly. This season, it felt like a dream come true, just getting to do it, and just the way that everything like panned out. It was just absolutely amazing. Not just saying that, the cast was amazing, the outcome was amazing. Missy, hopefully this comes out like loud and clear, like did such a phenomenal job. And like, I just feel so lucky and thrilled, and just, I don't know what I did to get a mole as amazing as she was. So just thank you for everything that you did for this.
Oh, look at you. I honestly, and I said this to Jamie a lot. I said that to them and to Spencer. It was all about, I'm not going to let you down. I promise. I would message them like randomly going, I'd let you guys know I'm really working on this. I promise you, I'm not going to let you down. I was more telling myself, like, don't screw it up, woman.
Jamie, did you always have the plan of having Missy be the mole, or was this something as production you decided on spot after meeting everyone face to face?
So we had chosen our mole about 3 to 4 weeks in advance. But the process of that was a lengthy one. So I'll say, as the two co-hosts, Spencer and I are the two who chose the mole. The rest of production was involved in literally every other aspect of planning, but only Spencer and I were involved in choosing the mole. We took into account like the initial surveys players filled out, their interviews, and then a follow-up survey. Basically, Spencer and I, like, each independently came up with a short list of 4 people who we both, for different criteria, were inspired by to make the mole, and it happened to be the exact same 4 people. So we whittled that down from 4 to eventually 2. So I'll even say that our top 2 ended up being either Missy or Ryan, who will be on here later. And then it literally took us weeks of stalling and going back and forth. It just felt like no matter who we picked, we're like, this is going to be awful. It's going to suck. It's going to be terrible. We're going to make the wrong choice and everything's going to be awful. Not you, Missy. Not that you would be awful, but like we would make
you hear that, Ryan? That's where we step up.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, that brings up a great question. Like, before I was going to jump to the finalists, and I appreciate everyone being flexible in the backstage and people wanting to get in, so on and so forth. So let's bring Ryan on here. Like, Ryan, you were almost the mole.
I was so ready to be the mole too. I wanted to. I was nervous, but I wanted to.
Do you feel a little bit like slighted at all, or are you super excited to see Missy pull this one out for the mole?
You know, I may have felt a little slighted if Missy didn't do such a good job. Like I've given her all the kudos, but I think she was one of the best moles I've ever seen. And so like I just think about that, and I'm like, well, if I was the mole, I probably wouldn't have done as good of a job. And so I'm totally happy that Missy was the mole, and I got to play. I got to try it out.
You did really well. And I told people you were the mole, so I mean, I did you a favor there.
Yeah, I mean, I had half the cast convinced at one point that I was the mole, so either way, I was still doing it apparently. So,
now Jamie, the other 2 people, who are they?
Ooh. So the other 2 people were Sam and Katie.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can like speak very briefly if it's all right, like how we kind of made our final choice, like what it came down to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were looking for like a few different things, and like all four of them ticked these off, but like Missy and Ryan were like very close in that we felt like they had a lot of the same strengths. So we wanted someone who was going to be flexible in their approach, how they would approach the game and approach sabotage, because you can't go in like with this is the plan and this is how I'm going to do it. And we felt like that they both had expressed their ability to be flexible in everything that we had gotten from them, their interview and their the survey that they filled out. We also saw them as people who would be very social in the group, like people who would be able to build relationships with people. And I think that that's important for a successful mole in throwing people off. We also just thought that they would be people that we would enjoy and have a good time working with as production, and that being an important factor. And also, honestly, I think that they are both people who could get away with doing things or messing up things for various reasons. And be able to use their social relationships to get away with that. It was very close in the end. I'll say there's not like one specific reason why we chose Missy over Ryan. It literally came down to almost a coin toss. It was not a literal coin toss. I'll say personally, it's I think that women of a certain age don't often get a lot of respect or space in a lot of places, live games being one of those. So we didn't know going into this if we were going to have a season 2 or not. So I said, because this is season 1, not knowing if we're going to have a season 2, if I have 2 people who are pretty equal caliber, if I really want them both to be the mole, if I can center an experience around someone who is as cool and rad as Missy, who represents the demographics that she does, that is something that I want to celebrate and center in my game.
Yeah,
so
and
that's what it came down to.
As Kirk says in the background here, Missy rewrote the rule book on how to.
I will say Kirk was somebody that I wanted to be proud of me. I mean, for lack of a better term, I mean, that is the term. And when he hugged me afterwards and he said to me, like kind of whispered, you have totally like revitalized my love for the mole. So that was a very big compliment.
Now we have the other 2 possible mole contestants in the backstage. We have welcoming Katie, and we have Sam here as well. Now, did either of you know that you were in the shortlist of becoming the mole? Katie, did you know?
We found out after, like during the wrap and the little review, I guess, or summation, and it felt like good actually, like to have been in that position. I never thought for myself, like when Jamie explained that they had multiple people, I was like, oh, who else could it have been? And then it was me, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of an honor too, to even be close to being chosen, I guess.
Katie, you got really far in the game, though. Do you think it would have been completely different for you, not experiencing the success of doing so well in the game?
I think that my success was not, I don't know. It's weird how I feel about this game. I feel good about where I ended up. I think if I were the mole, I don't know if, well, I know for sure I wouldn't not have done as great a job as Missy did, but I don't know. I think they made the right choice. Like, I just think overall. And I think that for me, I always want to do better than I did the last game for a personal reason. And I always want to be able to give my all to everything that I do. And I know I talked to Jamie about this a lot too. So I don't know if I would have truly enjoyed the game as much if I were the mole. So I guess that would be a little bit different.
And then Kirk wants to know, Sam, do you have any juice? I don't know exactly what that's referencing, but perhaps something.
Listen, yeah, Mama's on a detox. She needs her Fiji water right now. Thanks, Kirk.
Now, Sam, say you were chosen for the mole, like day one. What kind of would have been your strategy here?
I probably would have taken a similar approach to Missy. I'm a very competitive person and I like to win. So I probably would have just assumed the player role and may or may not have forgotten I was the mole myself. and just tried to live as the like as a player as genuinely as possible. I mean, there were some reactions that Missy had because she was a player so well that everyone had like, there's no way she as the mole would have that kind of reaction. It was so strong. It was so like in her that everybody believed it. So I probably would have taken the same approach.
I could see that with you. I think that's why I was drawn to you. And that's why when you were eliminated, I cried. I was genuinely sad that you weren't in the game, that I had something to do with it because I had, just met you. And so, yeah, I can absolutely see you would have done that. I mean, Ryan even literally crossed my name, my whole page of information out in his book. Like he just scribbled everything about me out in his book. So
I have the proof. On the end of the first day, it wasn't even like it was like at the end. It was like by day 1, I had crossed Missy's name completely out of my journal because I was scribbling everybody's name who I didn't suspect, and hers is the last one, and it is crossed off. Right there, you can see Missy crossed off, and it didn't even consider you.
Now 2 people that did consider Missy being the mole we have here tonight. So we're gonna hide folks back in the background here. Jamie, you can come out later too. Where's Sam? There we are. So the 2 folks that made it to the final end thinking Missy was finally the mole, we are joined here with Tyler and with Brian.
Hey.
Sorry, I'm studying for the quiz that comes after this.
This is why he won.
Just want to make sure I'm prepared.
So just out of curiosity, there's typically in the show like one move that stands out for the finalists that you peg that person to being the mole. Brian, what was it about Missy that finally made you go, ding, that's the mole?
So I started answering Missy as the mole when there were only 6 of us left. That was the first time I went, okay, I really think it's her. It was less, she was so good. I have to say, give her props. She was so good. There was never like that aha moment that she was the mole, but there was kind of the lucky aspect of many of my suspects being executed. So the biggest turning point in the game for me was at the final 8, we had a double execution where Ryan and Alex were both executed, and they were my top 2 suspects. So it was very fortunate for me in that round, and Missy was my next suspect. So I started looking at her more intently there and started, I had like a sheet where I tried to track how much money people were bringing in throughout the whole game, which is hard to do because often it's very up in the air. But Missy did bring in the least amount of money of everyone. And another player was very, very close to that, and that was Michelle. But I just didn't think it was Michelle, so in my head it was Missy.
Yeah, I think Jamie can confirm. I think Spencer told me that Brian guessed my name randomly the first thing, like you always the first day, the first quiz, you're just always putting down answers. But that after that my name was only written down five times after that, and it was Brian, and then Tyler finally at the end.
Yep.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah,
Tyler.
5 total all season is what Jamie just said.
Tyler.
Yeah. So my moment where I realized that like Missy was the mole was because I knew it wasn't Brian. So I had eliminated Brian so early on because right before Kirk was executed, I was talking to him and he said, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go all in on Brian. And then Kirk was executed that round. So I was like, well, it's not Brian. So I got very lucky because Missy was not even on my radar until we were in the final 3, and I was looking through my notebook, my journal, and I thought, oh my God, it's Missy. She's been playing me this whole time. And I had been trying to throw other people onto Brian to get them eliminated because I was like, well, if people go all in on Brian and I know it's not Brian, then that's going to potentially protect me. I don't know if it actually worked on anybody or not. More than likely it didn't, but I gave it my best effort. And then at the end, now after the game, looking back on certain things, I can say, oh yeah, that was really suspect of Missy. Like, why the hell didn't I pick up on that? Like one of the tasks we had was the Moles Carnival, and there was a 3-minute timer that we had. And when I went back to look through my notes, Missy should have been the 4th team at that timer, so they should have been at 12 minutes. And when I got to her, she said, "We're finishing at minute 18, so you have to call the time." And I just, in the heat of the moment and in the spirit of the competition, I was like, "Oh, somebody else must have messed Missy up. She didn't do that."
She would never lie.
I was like, that's not Missy. Somebody else did that to Missy. And then the cookies, I mean, that was genius.
that was I think that might be one of Jamie's favorite moments also in the whole game.
It really, it was, and that's our own fault because we just went all hands on deck for that. We had no system. We had no structure for that competition. It was just 12 hands inside of 20 bags of cookies, and that was it.
To give you an idea about this challenge, this was there were 20 different cookies, and Chef Eddie had baked these, and they all were different flavors. I think there was 6 different flavor options. Yeah. And we had to, by tasting them, say which ones they were, and then keep a record of which number each cookie was, and then give answers later on which ones we thought were which flavor. And Missy just went in there like a bull in a china shop, picking up cookies.
You guys, no. See, no. You guys, I will also say, Dustyn, going in, there were 2 things. I didn't want to know who was going to be playing, so I had no idea who was playing. That is one thing when I started talking with Jamie and Spencer. I don't want to know. I want to be genuinely surprised, because had I known that Brian was playing, or had I known that Clark was playing, I had a pretty good idea I might see Kirk, but I probably would have gotten in my own head about it. And we did go over the challenges, and this was one that I was looking forward to because I had a plan, but it was going to be a little hard. But then the 20 cookies were in baggies on this table, and people just started opening them, and they're like, "Let's set them on top of the baggie where they go." Alex is off on the side, just totally like, what the hell are these people doing? So I play into that a little bit at first. I step away and I'm like watching them. And then I would just pick one up, take a big bite so there wasn't a whole lot left, and just put it on a different bag. Put it on a different bag. Put it on a different bag. After somebody would say, "This one's peppermint," I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, it is." Find a banana. Put it on another bag. I don't even know. It was crazy. It was with
that challenge.
Yeah.
It was fun. And I don't even know, looking back, if you guys would even have been able to tell, because everybody was just grabbing and writing things down.
We had 6 different people going for 6 different cookies all at the same time. That was never going to work for us.
No.
We made it
needless
so
to say, that challenge went horribly.
Yeah, it did.
I thought it went really well.
Who on earth could ignore a cookie? It's standing right in front of you. You're gonna have to try it at some point. This game was meant.
And then I was even trying to be decent. I was like, "You guys don't just smell the peppermint ones. Don't bite them. It's gonna blow out your palate." But they were all biting them, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I was giving my good advice. I
was so hungry at that point. We could have been tasting different piles of dirt, and I would have tried all 20 of them.
Yeah.
It was right before dinner, I believe. And then, of course, the cookie challenge was over, and I was like, "I'm not hungry for dinner anymore."
Dinner was cookies that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Survivor twist of the season. You're going to go hungry, but we're going to give you lots of cookies to eat.
Cookies that have sesame and peppermint and banana.
I still have not eaten anything banana or peppermint flavored since then.
Oh, no. It'll be a while.
Yeah.
That's why there were 25 bananas left at the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Besides the final 2 here, we're also joined by some of the other finalists that got really far into the game. We are joined with 4th and 5th place per se, Katie, and then Michelle. Hey. So, Katie, we talked to you briefly a little bit earlier, but Michelle, where did you go wrong in this game? What were you not picking up on? You were close, just didn't make it there.
Looking back,
Brian? You were going for Brian like everybody else.
I was going for Brian because I put too much weight on day 1 than I did on day 2. And I feel like looking back, the sabotages that Missy, I don't know exactly what she did, but in hindsight, I think that she did more in day 2 than day 1. And day 1 was just there were some tasks in which it was kind of impossible to sabotage. There were some tasks that weren't even for money for the pot. So day 1 was harder to follow, and you kind of pick up on the things that you think you're seeing. I should have paid more attention to day 2.
Katie, was that your assumption too? Like you were just focused on day one stuff, or what slipped up for you?
Well, my number one suspect was Clark. So the moment he got voted out, I had a nice cry for 45
Aw.
minutes in the shower that night of freaking out, like, what the hell am I going to do? And then after that, it's like a multiple choice test. I get down to 2 answers and I picked the wrong one. And I went on Brian. So, yeah, good job.
And I went on you, Katie. So I also did the incorrect of the two.
Yeah, I think you guys were just down to time at that point. Tyler and Katie were.
Yeah, when we reviewed it, like, everybody was wrong for the majority of the game. So it really just came down to ultimately time and who could give the wrong answers the quickest.
And Brian.
And Brian.
And I won't even try to, like I said, Missy was nowhere on my radar. I'm not even going to try to pretend that was some secret, like, that I had hidden in my back pocket.
Oh, I have
Brian
proof.
was
I have
way
proof
onto
of this.
Missy
I have
before
proof
was.
of this. One of my strategies was never discussing. Oh, am I muted? No.
No.
You're good?
No, we
Okay.
hear you.
Okay, good. One of my strategies was never discussing who I actually thought was the mole with anybody. But the one time I did, it was with Tyler at the final 6 or maybe the final 5. And we were like, I'm like, so who do you think it is? And he said, well, it's got to be one of these girls. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, I think so too. And then I immediately regretted saying that. But I'm like, but I've eliminated one of them. I've eliminated one of the 3. And he said, yes, me too. And then on finale night, I found out that the one he had eliminated was Missy. Where the one I had eliminated was Michelle, and I was down to Katie and Missy. But yeah, it was.
And I was almost 100% confident that it was Michelle.
Yeah.
And Katie was my backup.
Let's
that's
get
why you got so
Jamie
far
out
from the
from
answers
behind
too.
the scenes. And like, Jamie, how were the votes? Is everyone being pretty truthful here? Like, we talked about staff and everything. Like, Missy, not on anybody's radar. So,
I mean, it was really cool following the suspicions throughout the game. I want to say, like, it's hard because there's like such a balance here, because it's like, yes, Missy did such a phenomenal job and like really deserves all of her props and roses, and it's amazing. But this cast as a whole like did a great job. Like, we can look at it in terms of outcome, like only like whether you determine the mole correctly or not. But like, it's a hard game, and like just seeing everyone's thought processes evolve and their strategies evolve, and just seeing you all navigate the game, and like where you have to be a bit deceitful or have to like put on a bit of a front or have to lie to people. Like, it's really challenging. And something Spencer and I talked about just the other day is like, in those moments where like you'd be taking the quiz with either Spencer or I, or you would be just in a room alone with Spencer or I, just seeing instantly every single person's fronts drop, the walls come down, and you just like exhale. Like, I think it happened with almost every single player at some point, and it was just like a lovely thing because it really showed how hard you were all playing. And this is a very strong cast.
Speaking of strong cast, we had a brief conversation about some of your favorite lies coming into this. So I'm gonna kick everybody but Jamie, and I'm just gonna remove you from the studio real quick. And then Jamie can talk about like your favorite lies that people told either to play the game or maybe in the game. So Jamie, what were some of your favorite moments of that?
So lies going into the game. And that really stems from, we did not announce the cast ahead of time. Like, no one knew who was going to be here or not. So it was really funny because Brian started telling people that he was on a vacation in Mexico.
Brian, was this something you had planned before? Like, was this always your thought about going to Mexico?
Well, we have a very active group chat from a previous online game, actually Dr. Jamie's online version of The Mole. So I'm like, oh, they're going to notice I'm not being chatty, so I need to be somewhere. So I'm like, well, I am going to Mexico the following week. I just got back. So I'm like, I'm just going to say I'm going to Mexico, and they'll believe that. So I actually posted a picture of my view out my window in Mexico, which apparently not everyone believed. including Shandy, who ended up being in the cast.
Shandy, I think that was another one of your favorite lies, right,
Oh,
Jamie?
Brian was the second best lie. The
Mhm.
best lie was Shandy's lie, because Shandy, for perspective, is the most talkative person I have ever met in my entire life. And she said that she was going on a silent retreat in another country at that. So Brian and
Yes.
Shandy actually are two Canadians in the cast from very
We
different
are.
parts of Canada, but both Canadians.
We are the two Canadians. Well, I had to explain to the border guards what I was doing going into the US. And I was like, how deep do I want to get into like this whole rabbit hole of like, well, there's this show, The Mole, and I play this online version. I was like, I'm going to visit friends. Let's leave it at that.
And people get executed, and
Yeah, the murder mystery in the woods of Ohio. No.
Yeah, maybe we could skip that part. Yeah.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
But I just want to say for the record, I knew Brian was lying about being in Mexico, and I have the screenshots to prove it from days before. I called him out. It was my first prediction. I knew Brian was lying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Shandy, was this your first game going into this live experience?
Yes, this was my first live game. So I have played a few online before, including Jamie and Spencer's online game with Brian, actually, I guess a year ago. I think we were kind of wrapping that one up. And then I played another online mole game a couple months ago where I actually was the mole, which was very exciting for me, but it didn't help me with any of my strategy in this game, which was having no strategy whatsoever.
Brian, similar to you, first time playing, right?
It is my first time. Yeah, this is my first live game, and like Shandy, I've done a couple online versions, and I did like an online Survivor as well. But yeah, definitely my first live game. Yeah, and it was a blast. It was so much fun. Yeah.
Shandy, did this stack up to what you thought you were going into and getting the experience out of it?
So I told Jamie afterwards, like, I had such high expectations for this game. Like, I knew it was going to be 10 out of 10. And I walked away and I was like, oh, that was like 11, 12, 13. It was so awesome. Like, it was just exactly what I thought it was going to be. And all the activities, like assignments, they were just so creative and so different. And the levels of the different ways that you could mess these assignments up, I was like, these are just next level. Yeah, it was really good. But the whole thing overall too, I think everyone there was just amazing and really fun and had a really good energy, I think, for the whole group overall.
Tyler, another one of the first timers here, right? Beginner's luck, perhaps? As I caught you at a bad moment. So sorry about that. You're on mute. Wait, hold on. I can't unmute you. I'm sorry. You muted yourself.
There we go. Yay.
Beginner's luck, first time experience.
Yeah, definitely some luck involved. I did used to play online games. I've been out of the game for a little bit. I hadn't played anything in about 3 years. And Jamie had reached out to me to join the Facebook group, and then I saw the application and I was like, yeah, this seems fun. So I asked them like, hey, can I apply even though I know you? And they were like, yeah, of course. And here we are. So yeah, anybody who's listening or watching to this, just because it's your very first LRG doesn't mean that you can't win. You can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little bit earlier of a boot, Ryan, you still had a great experience, right?
Oh, it was I've already told Jamie this too, but it's one of the most memorable weekends of my life, hands down. Loved every second of it.
Fantastic. I was hoping Lex could pop on here too. Lex has been in and out of the comment section too. We were trying to get Lex on for a moment as well, but switching gears, as opposed to all the newbies here that came out and had a great event, let's switch to some of the more experienced players here. So we're going to put Sam up. We're going to hide everybody else. Bye, everybody. Bye. We'll see you all in a little bit. So, Sam, what was your experience and how was this different from the other ones? So,
well, I guess the first one is difference of format. I've played Survivor live games before. And obviously that's a different world because you have the social strategy aspect, you're voting people out, whereas a mole game, everything is kind of on you because you're taking the quizzes and you can believe people with their suspicions or not. And it's a much more in your head kind of game. The other aspect is like you're able to really enjoy everybody. You're able to enjoy the challenges. You're able to enjoy the entire experience because really you're only kind of being duped by one person at large versus an entire cast of everybody's trying to scratch their way to the top kind of deal. So I feel like it's just a lot easier to enjoy every single aspect it like wholeheartedly. And the way that Jamie had everything set up was just top tier.
That is amazing. Probably one of our most experienced players in this game. Definitely has played everything from Survivor, everything like that. Jessica, was this your first time playing The Mole per se? This wasn't, was
this
it?
was actually my second mole game, so it was definitely fun. But this is I think I told them my 13th live game, but like my sixth, like fifth or
Lucky
sixth,
number
like
13.
first series live game. So been a part of a lot of firsts. So.
And then Clark, we've seen you in a few things too. How was this game compared to anything crazy or mayhemish that you've played before?
Well, I would say this was a very fun experience. So this was my second live game that I've played. Obviously, I've hosted quite a bit, but when it comes to playing live games, I don't have a whole lot of experience.
And remind me, I think we did an introduction to some mole-ish kind of game before, eh?
Yes. So I did host the Root of All Evil Live, which I've been working diligently on for episodes. So hopefully we'll be getting a cast reveal and episodes for that out soon. But this was only my second live game, and my first live game I was in for maybe like 20 minutes. So I went into this just like, I'm going to do this to have fun. Hopefully I'm going to make it far. I want to have like a full experience. And I feel like I got 150% experience. Like it was so much fun. The cast was entertaining, top notch, yet also strategic. I went into this thinking like I was afraid. I get social anxiety from time to time. So I went into this, I'm like, gosh, I'm so worried like I'm going to have a panic attack or be super anxious or everything. The cast, the production were all super supportive. So I really felt like I was in great company playing this game, and I'm really glad to make it as far as I did.
Kirk is watching. Kirk is probably one of the
Kirk.
most experienced too. Him and Jessica, I think, are at like tier level with like the number of games that you played, right?
And Stacey's pretty up there too.
Stacey was in production this season, first time ever for Stacey
players,
too.
yeah.
So. I think Stacey's probably like double both of you by now. So like,
didn't she say 19?
Yeah.
I think she said 19.
Something like that. And then Michelle had a nice shout out for any game casting. Like, go for Clark. So
I've been trying to apply for so many game shows and never make it past the application. Like, so I'm trying. I'm hopeful. Wheel of Fortune after Tyler.
Well, let's chat with Dr. Jamie a little bit more here. Jamie, what from the production didn't we see? Like anything special happen in the background that, you know,
I think I would just
come out.
I think I would just highlight just like how much camaraderie there was between us, which was just kind of lovely to see. I think in general, like there was a lot of like anxiety going into this because this was a new endeavor for each of us. So like Spencer, my co-host, and I, like we are high anxiety people. I know Clark mentioned this, but like I have like definite clinical social anxiety myself. So like I just felt like something was going to go wrong. I said that a little bit at the beginning. So like that was just my own projection, but like Spencer and I are just so fortunate that like we had the support of like Stacy and Tyler to help with like all the tasks and the execution, just everything that went into that. I think we are very fortunate to have Chef Eddie as well, who I think is like the so far tonight unsung hero of the group, like preparing all the meals. And like I'd say the thing that was just like lovely in that regard, like the little behind the scenes thing, is like whenever I would notice myself just like tired or stressed about something, like he would be there with like a bottle of water or just like a snack that he hand prepared for me, which was like really nice. Going into the game, I was not in a good place, like health wise. I was having some issues, so I was really worried about that. And I know a couple other members of production were going through some stuff too. So like we were worried about how that was going to go, but like it just came together so beautifully. I just feel so fortunate about that. And that's a testament to the cast. I said this in the initial filming that we did with you, but we cast 13 people, not because we were initially looking for 13, but because we had such a strong pool of people, we couldn't cut it down any further. So that shows how much we wanted this cast. And from the time that we cast everyone in September to the time that we had this in April, not a single person dropped out, not a single person. So this was the exact 13 people we initially cast. So that's just beautiful. And I think we were all just excited on production. Yeah. I rambled a bit, but there's my answer.
No worries. This is the part to ramble, to share all that special things that we don't get to see. So speaking of things, comments here, Chef Eddie's amazing. Chef Eddie is his favorite production member. Wonderful job of taking care of you all. So that's fantastic to hear. So let's talk a little bit from our earlier-ish boots and then get their final things. And let's kind of go back to the finalists right before we go. Joining us for the first time here, first-time player, Lex. Lex, how are we doing tonight?
Oh, hang on. I think I...
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Oops, there we go.
It's
I'm getting a
fantastic
feedback. There we go.
Nothing on our side. You sound great.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Lex, this was your first game, and from my knowledge, you don't have a ton of knowledge about online games or anything like that. How did you find out about this one?
No, I am completely new to all of this, and it was so much fun. I had such a great time with everybody. Dr. Jamie and production did such a great job. I felt so welcome. Everybody was so nice. It was a wonderful first experience. It really was.
Well, welcome to the community in general. Like, these live games are built on these interpersonal like relationships we have with each other, and just continue to grow from there. So I'm super excited that you got out of this experience something that you wanted. Is that correct?
Yeah, it really was, because one of my friends, Ryan, he's done many of these, and a couple with some of the other cast members who I was playing with. And he was like, you should really do this. You would be so good at it. You'd have a blast. And I'm like, all right, I'll apply. Why not? And I'm really glad I did. I definitely want to do more of these. I had just such a wonderful experience from beginning to end and post. Everybody is so cool and wonderful.
As Missy says, one of us.
Can I share one of my favorite experiences with Lex?
What was that?
Can I share one of my favorite experiences with Lex?
Yes, please.
And it's funny because I don't think we've ever talked about this afterward, but Lex caused me inadvertently to have the biggest spike of anxiety probably the entire weekend.
Oops.
And
Did
that's
I really?
from because one thing that we really tried to do on production was make like a cast-centered season. So we wanted people to feel like they could leave here, whether they were the first person executed or the winner or the mole, no matter when they left, that they got to do a lot of things and really had a full time. So like we tried to incorporate people into a lot of things. So Lex, even though they were sadly the first person out, like helped with a lot of tasks, including the very next task. This was still day one. So it was the carnival task. So I had Lex overseeing one of the hourglasses, which was talked about earlier. So people were doing different carnival tasks in pairs to try to win tickets as part of our big ticket twist for the season. They also had to work together to keep time with hourglasses and stop it at specific times. So I had a 1-minute hourglass with me, and then in another location, Lex had a 3-minute hourglass that they had to keep 2 different times with. But of course, they had to do the carnival games at the same time. So it made it, a clusterfuffle, which was the goal. So Missy was a big part of intentionally messing up the time with one of the hourglasses. So that's why they earned no money for that. And then Lex had very well-intentioned, well-meaning, comes up to me after the test and is like, can I tell people that Missy was one of the ones who messed that up? And I'm like, no, you absolutely cannot. So like, I'm trying
But I didn't. I said nothing. I said no word.
I know you didn't, but I am like, in my mind, I'm like, how do I communicate in a way that's like, no, you can't tell what's going on, but also say that in a tone that's not me communicating. No, you can't say what's going on because she's the mole.
No, I completely understood immediately, and I was like, oh yeah, of course. No, I shouldn't say a word.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Yeah. No, we had a great class. No one gave anything away.
Seriously,
Unfortunately, I don't think the eliminated players even like really knew who it was for some time. But yeah, that was a very funny moment in hindsight, Lex.
Lex, you were the first person eliminated. Like, what stuck out to you as the person who you thought was the mole?
So initially, I was actually thinking it was Shandy, but having never done. Oh, hi!
Hi!
That was such great timing. I love that. Hi, Shandy.
That's right.
So
why Shandy?
Shandy, but I double guessed myself, and I was like, you know what? Everybody else is probably smarter at this. I'm gonna go with what I least expect because I confused myself. I overthought it all, and I ended up actually picking Jessica. And because I've never done this before, I didn't do the spread your I didn't do the spread your answers rule, like split. I didn't know about that little tactic, and I went all in. And I was like, go paw, I'm out. Oh well. But I didn't mind going out first because having never done this, and with so many other people on the cast who have done this so many times, it was nice to get to watch how they handle it and take notes. And I was kind of really grateful for that. So next time.
Watch out next time. That's what you're saying. So.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Lex, for jumping on here. We'll see you on the next game. Okay.
Take care.
Let's see here, Jessica. I want to focus here on a little picture that I have here. It's nothing fancy, nothing like crazy or anything like that. I'm just going to share my screen here. Talk about how you had different theme nights and this little outfit here looks very nice.
So this is our dress to kill like theme, I guess, for the first night. And I don't really have a black dress or any kind of red dress or any kind of anything. It was basically like red, black, and white were the 3 colors. And so I was like, Mom, I need a dress. Can you hook me up? So that's actually my mom's dress. She goes, just wear this. It'll be fine. So I said, okay. So, and I already had red hair. So I'm like, this is perfect. Red, black, and white. I got it good. I just need to make the makeup match. And it was all good. So seeing everyone dressed up that Thursday night was pretty fun to see everyone all dressed all fancy before we sweated our asses off the rest of the weekend.
What was one of the best times that you had on this specific occasion?
Like the whole weekend?
Yeah.
It was actually getting voted out or executed when I did, because the last time I played a mole game, I was to the very end. And so I didn't get to enjoy it really, like with the eliminated players. And so
or the hot tub, as people are saying, it was very enjoyable, especially for
I would say my favorite experience was probably the hot tub the night I got executed, because me, Lex, and Kirk and Chef Eddie had like the biggest powwow. Can we just bring Tyler on here for just a second? Because it was all centered around him. And it was by far
I got to hear part of this.
Oh, it was
okay. Okay, I can't comment quick enough, but Sam, I just kicked you from the studio. So Tyler, you're watching. There's a little delay from what we're talking here and the YouTube channel. So if anybody, speaking of YouTube channel, isn't subscribed yet, make sure you hit subscribe so you can follow along with all of these fantastic games and whatnot. And here you have a story with Tyler.
Yeah, well, he kind of already knows, but it was so funny because after I got executed, mainly in the mole games, it's interesting to see who gets executed when, and usually it's the last mole game I played, it was always the mole's like closest allies get eliminated quick, and then it switches to like the other side of the house, if you will. That's not even a thing, but like usually who like the mole isn't friends with, they get eliminated, and then it's switches back to the mole's friends. And so it was like me, Lex, Kirk, and me, and that's who the three people Tyler was hanging out with the night zero. And so I'm like, great, it's got to be Tyler. It's 100% Tyler. When Kirk went out, I was like, there's no way it's got to be him, because I was sitting next to Tyler holding his hand, and as soon as I got eliminated, he just went white. He started like, I was like, his eyes are getting red, he's getting shaky, he can't look me in the eye. It's 100% him. So we're shit talking Tyler up in this hot tub. I'm like, he's gonna hear us for sure. And here comes Tyler just coming out, and he like deadlocks me in the eye, and it just like a panic set in. He's like, oh shit, guilt vibe. It just like, I could just feel the guilt like exuding from Tyler. He's like, what have I done? And then he just left, and it was just like 30 seconds of like, what the fuck was that? I don't even know. And then he just left, and like the whole rest of the day he would look at me, wouldn't talk to me, and I'm like, it's definitely Tyler. And then Sam gets voted out or executed, and he goes, yeah, I put everything on Tyler, it's not Tyler. And me and Shandy and Kirk were just like, what do you mean you put it all on Tyler and now you're gone? So that was fun trying to figure out who it was if it wasn't Tyler, but we were still convinced it could have been him up until the very last second.
Now, Shandy, it sounds like you were voted out at that time too, and it's in the voted out people. You all were rooting for Tyler to be the mole.
So when the quiz I went out, I think I was trying to split between Katie and Tyler. So I was a little bit suspicious, but as soon as all the executor players were like, no, it's Tyler. Oh, I bought in immediately. I was like, yes, it's Tyler. It has to be. And then even Sam, he was out after me, and he was like telling us, he's like, no, it's not Tyler. I went all in on Tyler. And I'm like, yes, but counterpoint, it's Tyler.
We were convinced it's still him.
Like, I understand the math, but false. It's still
nope.
No way it's anyone else. And it's was that like confirmation bias, right? Like you're just like, no, we have all this evidence. It's totally him.
And I'm just so surprised we have so many adamant opinions about who it is, but the adamant opinion is never Missy until the very end. Like there's
Missy insulated herself socially so well because she played the player in terms of how she was connecting with people and just her reactions in certain assignments is what I'll say. She could speak more to that, but like she just had a lot of social capital in terms of how genuine she was coming across, like the entire time.
I guess similar question that I posed to Jessica. Shandy, what was like your biggest takeaway from this so far?
From the game overall? Mm-hmm. I was there to win RuPaul's best friend race. Like I was there for the social. I just wanted to hang out. As soon as I was eliminated, I was like, okay, everyone, where's our group chat? Like it was just fun. So I think like I was the real winner, but everybody's the real winner because we're all best friends now. So that's what I was there for. I'm so happy to have met all of you, and I'm so glad that I made it because I almost did it.
I think my favorite group chat, because I've never been a part of a Shandy group chat before, and my favorite group chat was the team extraction.
And then team extraction was what, Shandy?
So we had a bit of a dental theme because we were still on Tyler being the mole. So like the emoji was the tooth, like it was called team extraction because he had extracted us all from the game. Like it was just, there's layers to the group chats, but again, as soon as Sam got out, I think we were like, okay, it's not Tyler, but it's still Tyler. Then we had a new group chat that still lives on to this day. So Yes, that was. We were still on Tyler for a long time, longer than we should have been.
I never would have extracted the 4 of you from the game ever. I wouldn't have extracted anybody. I would have self-extracted first.
It's the right answer.
Before we get to
the real
Tyler,
friends were the extractions we did along the way.
There you go.
All right, before we get back to our finalists here, we're going to remove Tyler. I just want to say a quick shout out to Jamie. Like that, having that feedback from the people that were eliminated and having such a great job is something very hard to pull off in a live game. So I don't know if it was just the casting that you put into it, the place, like the players, like whatever you did for that. It's just because once people are gone from a game, most of the time they're disappointed. They wanted to play more, but it sounds like they had a great time. And that's probably some of the atmosphere that you made and the environment that you created. So props to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, we really wanted to make a player-centric game. And I think that, in a lot of ways that we did that. I think just hosting this game as a whole and seeing everyone's experience, like honestly gives me a big confidence boost. I've said this for a while that like, if there's one thing I need more in my life, like we could always use a little more money, but like by and large, it's like confidence. Like I could use a boost in confidence to myself. And this, I think, definitely helped with that. And I just am so thankful for like the experience of getting to host this. I couldn't have imagined a better one. And like, since Jess is here right now, I'll say like you were one of the people who like it was so cool to host you because it's literally a turnaround. So Jess hosted me in my very first live game. So like she's definitely someone who I was looking to see here. And then Shandy, you being literally one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. So getting to host you was amazing as well.
It was an honor. It was an honor to be able to come and play and just be a part of this. It was amazing.
All right. Well, thanks, Shanny, Jess, for hanging out here. We're going to kick you and go over to some other folks. We'll see you in the comments. And everyone watching this, too. There's a ton of comments coming in that I just can't quite get to in time. But we'll get back to our finalists before we close out. But I have one picture that is hanging up in the upstairs room right now. And this is a picture of none other than Clark. Michelle's also in this photo here. So I'm just curious. I try to keep up as best I can, but here is just the picture that I am talking about. I'm sure you know what it is, but please tell me, like, I have this photo upstairs. Kirk brought it home and he's like, guess who this is? I'm like, I really had no good answer. So, Michelle, was this your interpretation of Clark at the time, or explain what's happening in this photo?
It makes more sense if you can tell that Clark's hair in person is partially dyed blue. I put the part on the wrong side, but we had a task where we had to make artistic renditions of either ourselves or other people in the cast. Like Tyler, for example, only had pipe cleaners as a medium. Katie had glitter as a medium. I had this tissue paper, and I was told to like do the last eliminated contestant. So that's my portrait of Clark, who I completely forgot his facial hair, but it's okay because I was also trying to fake being the mole during the game. So I was like, maybe people will be like, why did you put the beard on? And I was gonna be like, I don't know, why didn't I? So yeah, but oh my God, Katie did such a good glitter rendition of Dr. Jamie. It is so good. You can tell that this woman like works with glitter for a living because she is a professional.
Clark, did you see that? And you were like, wow, it's looking like a mirror. Clark, muted.
Clark, you're muted.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Like a mirror, right?
So somebody pulled me downstairs. I think I was like in the living room talking to everybody, and Michelle was like, Michelle, I think she was like, you need to come downstairs and you need to see this right now. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I'll go along with it. And she takes me downstairs and she shows me this picture, and I'm like, I'm just laughing my ass off because it is so funny. But yeah, I mean, people couldn't really tell from the pictures because it's like they
Katie
can't really
correctly
see that
guessed
my
it.
hair's...
Katie did guess it.
That's
well,
awesome.
mad props to Katie. Katie, did you?
Yeah.
How did you guess
glitter
that?
skills.
Katie, you're muted
as well.
I blame Clark. Okay, so first thing I noticed was the big blue thing. I was like, well, no one wore a beret this weekend. So, and then there was a mission where Clark was in a group with me and he had to be blindfolded. So I'm like, oh, Michelle put the blindfold over Clark's face. It's Clark. So that's where my abstract brain went. And I was like, oh, wow, that's brilliant. Just, wrote down Clark. And I was like, okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think I have a close-up on the glitter picture that I really wish
Can
I
I
could
share another like great moment that I loved from that assignment that involved Katie?
Yeah.
So Missy's was she had to make and we actually let her choose ahead of time which one she would want to do as being the mole. So she wanted to do the macaroni portrait of Spencer. So she said, okay, my goal is to just make a basic person with glasses. And then she said afterward, oh, see this extra piece? That's his earpiece. It doesn't look great. And I remember like one or two people were like, yeah, wow, that's right. But then, so Missy had said, I just want to make a basic person with glasses. And then as I'm bringing each person up one at a time to like decide what each portrait was, Katie looks at that and she literally says, word for word, this is a basic person with glasses.
Oh, I didn't even remember saying that. Yeah, I was just like, this could be any of like the 6 of us who are wearing glasses this weekend. That's great. Like, good job. And I didn't catch on. Still made the wrong choice, but
I mean, did you see the other masterpieces though?
Did you see my masterpiece though?
Yours was amazing, but no, again, it's a very hard game, especially when you have people playing the mole, other people just not doing well at things, and like it's just the mindset of it all. It's a game that is meant to confuse people. Like that's just part of it. You still killed it in my eyes.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed every minute of it, and I think we kind of sabotaged ourselves just as much, if not more so in some cases, than Missy ever could, because God, like there's this one, another drawing related episode where I pissed Missy off so bad, and I apologize, but it's Detective Flower. We had to, I forgot what it was, but the premise was
artist goes to New York.
That's it. And we could each in our group only draw one line. So I asked the question, well, how long can that line be? Like, can I draw the whole image for my group and that be my one line as long as my marker doesn't come off the paper? And Spencer said, yeah, that's fine. So when it was my turn on the last one, we had to draw a picture of a detective. I was like, I'm not going to waste my flower. So I drew a flower, and it turned into like, I think this like abstract or like,
I think we have a rendition of it right here,
monster. Yeah. Oh, Missy has it.
Hold on, let me put Missy in the big
If the other
screen here.
team could guess what it is, then we got money for the pot. But if they couldn't guess what it is, then everyone on our team got like a secret advantage. And we're all like, yeah, like give us advantages, like screw money. So we didn't draw a detective at all. We wanted an advantage. And when Missy found out, she was furious. Like, how come we're not making money for the pot?
Because they didn't realize that they could have gotten the advantages and the money. So at that point, I was like, why would they do that? And Alex was just as angry as I was. And here's me trying to play as a player. Alex is like, I've got to compose myself before I go upstairs. I'm like, well, the hell with that. I'm not composing myself. And I yelled at him, I'm like, turn around, Clark. Yeah, you too, Clark. Shut up.
And can I say a little something there too, Missy? Because you spoke to that at the finale, and like, because it's kind of two prongs. So like on the one hand, like Missy was playing the player and like was genuinely frustrated because you all weren't going for money. Because it's kind of like she felt like, yeah, you all should be trying to earn money, right? The other side of that you shared with me going into the game, Missy, is like for that assignment, like your goal was to help your team give bad guesses.
Yes.
So part of it was that you were pissed that they did so bad that they did not even give you the opportunity to do your job, what you saw as your job.
And again, so then at that point, it was taking the opportunity to be the pissed off person that money didn't get put in the bank when it could have just as easily gotten tickets and money. Yeah. But people that know me know, because I'm a fucking Libra, like I hate like injustice. I hate things that aren't like equal. I hate things that aren't like fair or whatever.
Unless you're causing it.
Well, and so people will know, okay, if this is Missy playing as Missy's a player, she's going to be pissed off. And when she's upset, she lets you know, because I get it out in 45 seconds. Then I'm done.
I literally had to pull Missy outside after the task because she was so angry at me. And I was like, Missy, I am so sorry. I want you to know that this was not my idea. And
Michelle did it. That's what he said. Michelle did it.
We were all in the production room together waiting during the task. And Michelle brings up this idea and everybody's just sort of like, okay, all right. And we just all went along with it. So then when we're all in the living room during the results of the task, and I'm trying to look at Missy like, oh, I just pulled off something sneaky. Like I had my hand in the cookie jar. And Missy is like, turn your ass around. Don't even look at me. And I just felt so bad. But at that point, I was like, Missy can't be the mole. Her reactions are like 100% genuine. I never had Missy listed as a suspect the entire game, and I was one of her closest allies.
He was my closest. Clark was my, like, Clark and Sam and Tyler. Like, those are people that I kind of, and Ryan and I had this thing going where Ryan was like, yeah, keep telling people it's me. Like, let's do that. I'm like, okay, we'll do that. But then I had to position myself to keep Clark around, to keep him to trust me. So then I'd be like, okay, so I'm a woman. Like I had to put myself with certain people. So I had to put myself with Michelle sometimes. I had to put myself with Brian in certain situations. So then the people that I knew that were guessing it was Brian or that were guessing it was Michelle would have enough things correct that they'd stick around to think that they were right. And that's what led to Brian going into like a singing competition. Or he thought he was going into a singing competition, but he had to guess words to songs, and Brian does not know music. But that's kind of how those things happen because... Go ahead, Brian. Yeah, Brian, it is. It's probably singing. I bet you it is singing.
Now with the group right here, before we go, let's start with Clark. Clark, what did you expect from this game, and what did you want to get out of it, I guess?
So I've played Jamie's online series twice. I've both, how would I say this? Both times I've played, I know that Jamie pours their heart and their soul into every single online game that they host. So I was like, okay, this is a season 1 of a mole game. I've never played a mole live game before, but I know Jamie's hosting experience, and I know for a damn fact that this is going to be a top-notch game regardless, because I know how much effort, how much detail, how much creativity, how much drive, and how much of their own blood, sweat, and tears went into this game. So I was like, I'm going into this, 1, to support my friend, but 2, to play a damn fantastic live game. And I feel like I got that. I went in, 1, wanting to redeem myself from my first live game experience, because I'm like, I felt like I had a little bit of unfinished business. I was like, okay, I know I can do these challenges. I know I can be social, but my first live game experience, I didn't really get to show that. So I feel like I did get to show that this season. But being able to meet, 1, all these people that I've met online through these online games, like Alex. Alex was the mole in the first online game of Jamie's that I played. So being able to meet him after all this time, being able to meet Missy, we've been friends for like 5-6 years through online games. Being able to meet her was amazing. But also being able to meet all these new people that I've never met before and just have like this instant bond with each of them. That's what I was hoping to get, and I feel like I definitely got that through Who is the Mole. So A+ experience for me, and I know that other people in the cast have had similar experiences.
Michelle, you're nodding your head in agreement. Great time for you as well.
Yeah, I feel like there's some overlap a little bit between what Clark is saying and the reasons why I went in. I'm someone who loves social deduction games, and the mole for me is like kind of the closest to like werewolf out of all the different formats, you know, more than Big Brother, more than Survivor, whatever. I'm not really interested in voting people out anyway. So, okay. Like I want to see if I can find the traitor. And when I played in Victory House 3, I was the first one eliminated. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I just like bad at this? And I was like, you know what? Like I want to see, my goal for that weekend was to go and seeing if I could play a better game. Could I speed up my quiz times? Could I listen to my own gut and block out like what others are saying? Can I deduce things like better than I did the last time? Can I take what I've learned from watching additional seasons like with Alex online and like put it, you know, to use? And so I developed these strategies for myself. I was like, okay, like I will consider the weekend to be a success if I can like convince other people that I'm the mole, because I don't necessarily need to like be the fastest person at running the bear, like just long as I'm not like the slowest person. Like the bear can eat someone else, like just long as, you know, okay, can I throw other people off the trail? Can I block out what others are saying and just play my own game? And can I act in a way that's like very anti-Michelle in ways like, can I control my body language and my speech patterns and my facial expressions in ways that don't give me and my game away? Because I'm someone who's very expressive. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like I talk really fast. Like I love talking to people. And I was like, can I do something that's so against like my type? Can I keep my mouth shut? Can I have a poker face? Can I control like my reaction to things? And I was like, if I can do those things, then I will consider the weekend to be a success. So for me, it was like a weekend in like acting, and it was like trusting my own gut. And I feel like I succeeded on both fronts. Like my placement, like for me, is like irrelevant. I like did the things that I set out to do. So I'm happy with my game. And now that like in hindsight, I'm like, man, like there were flaws with what I did. And so now I'm like, well, can I do what I did this time, but like better? Like, so, you know, so there's increasing goals, but I really enjoyed the game itself. I really enjoyed the food. Thanks again, Chef Eddie. I enjoyed the other players. I enjoyed all of the time and effort that production put into making such a wonderful experience. Like Clark said, 10 out of 10 would mole again.
Nice. Katie, was it kind of like redemption for you as well coming in to a different mole game? I think you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier about this, but any like final words on this specific time?
I think for me, it was more of a humbling game as far as the moment that Clark was voted out, my entire game collapsed. And I cannot imagine having Jamie and Spencer's role for them to hear how many people are like, oh, and I know I did this. I was guilty. I went all in. I think I'm good. I'm solid. And they're sitting there in their minds and going, oh, way to go, dumbass. No, you're completely wrong. So for me, my game this entire time was based on wrong answers in a fast time and some strategic disadvantages that I got to hand out. Not so much in Missy's case, but Clark, rest in peace. But
and I think Kirk had a little disadvantage from you as well. So
yeah, Kirk did too. Sorry, not Clark, Kirk. But like overall, I just think I wanted to play this game, same as Clark's reason that meeting Jamie. Anybody who has a chance to meet them, and Spencer and Tyler and Eddie and Stacey, but Jamie was the reason that I wanted to play. And their passion, they thought this game through so much that the morning of the last day was the arts and crafts mission. And to just have that time on probably one of the most hectic time periods, getting that far in the game, to just sit and just talk and word vomit and create and do art was
art
so
therapy.
needed. Yeah. And just all of that just shows how much thought and caring and love went into this game. And it has been an experience unlike any that I've experienced in the few live games that I've played. But just again, just like everyone else, very honored to have been part of this first season.
Oh my gosh, you all are making me have emotions. Like, but no, I mean, I cannot say it enough. It's not just words. I am so thankful for this entire cast and just for the experience, and all of production feels the same. We all do. And I'm just personally so grateful for you all and for the experience. And I could not have imagined, literally, I couldn't have imagined a better hosting experience. So it's going to be maybe even impossible to ever top, but thank you all so much for being a part of it. Like Clark, you know a lot of my trajectory. I have played a number of your online games with varied experiences, and I'm someone who myself was always very hard on myself until, you know, multiple years finally getting like my first Orgwin, and funny enough, that was with you, Michelle. So meeting you with that through that and seeing a bit of that shady side of you, I would argue, but hey. And then also doing my very first live game. Oh my gosh, this is literally like a story that I'm creating in my head, because I did my first live game with you and Katie. So this is like really, really.
And Jessica, yeah.
Yeah, and Jessica. But it was just very special to have everyone who was a part of this cast be a part of it. Whether I knew you well, whether I knew you not so well, whether I didn't know you at all, because there were varying levels in the cast. But it was perfect.
Well, folks, we're gonna switch on to some other folks. So, Clark, Katie, Michelle, thanks for hanging out tonight. We're gonna focus on 2 other people. Missy, we're gonna send you to the background just for a little bit. 2 more quick little like goodbye things. I have a few questions for these last folks here. We're joined once again with Ryan and with Sam. Specifically with Sam, I think I have the right spot in this. I don't know if you're expecting this, but there is like this final challenge, if you will. I think this is it. I can't quite be sure, but I have to like reshare my screen here. So, Ryan, can you explain like the last challenge? I think you know what I'm going for.
Potential. Is it a challenge or was it an improv?
An improv thing. Exactly. What are we going to watch here?
Oh, I don't think we should watch the whole thing. Let me make sure.
No, I'm stopped at 12 minutes right here. I think I'm at an adequate spot to showcase Sam in all the glory.
So the wonderful Dr. Jamie told us, we're going to give you 15 minutes. We just want you to put on a show. You know, be dramatic, be theatrical, have fun. You know, that's the direction we were given. And so within an hour, we had devised a plan to just basically go all out. Initially, though, it wasn't a plan to go all out until Alex stepped in, who was not here, unfortunately, but he stepped in as the host of this improv show that we all did, all the executed players. And he put on this ridiculous voice, got really into it, and it immediately drew us all into it as well. And we all just performed these skits. We were screaming at Brian and Missy. We were just like completely losing it. And there was a planned halftime show that Sam was gonna lead. And I think that is what we are going to see.
Yes. So let's just watch for just a moment.
We're going so well. 2 minutes.
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so Sam, I think that was your big like TikTok debut, correct? Was this like what we're going for?
I I don't even TikTok, but I like have an account so I can scroll mindlessly, but I mean that's gold.
For people that are just tuning in that want to watch the full video, I do recommend searching the Facebook group Who is the Mole and make sure you get to 12 minutes in and just go from there. I haven't watched the whole thing. I'm sure there's other highlights as well. So start from the beginning, but definitely 12 minutes is what you want to check out. Jamie, were you expecting this kind of like showcase of skills?
Oh my gosh. I in a way, yes, because we knew we had some very theatrical people. Like, you know, I was banking on, you know, the Kirks, the Shandys, the Jessicas of the world to come through. But like Alex really delivered as well. And clearly Sam did too. But just for a quick context, like what was really like the assignment of it all was Stacy and I created this very elaborate tablescape down in the basement that had like a ton of just different random objects on it that we gave the final 10 minutes to study, but they couldn't take any notes. And I love this as a sabotage for Missy because Missy knew what was going to happen later. She knew that only 2 people were going to do one half of the assignment, 2 are going to do another. So she immediately said, and Tyler immediately backed her up on this, that, 2 people look at one side, 2 people look at the other, knowing that you would need to study the entire thing in order to be successful. And that's something that she thought to do before the assignment. But basically, they looked at that tablescape for 10 minutes. And then afterward, they did a completely different assignment just to mess with their memories. While that was happening, we got this set up and we asked for 2 people who would go down and like look at the tablescape again, because Stacy and I took 5 things off of it altogether. We moved the location of 5 things, and then we transformed 5 things, like changed the color, size, or something like that. But those 5 things that we took off of that tablescape, we gave to the executed players, and they needed to incorporate that within the skit that they did in some way. So Brian and Missy, while watching it, would have to identify what was being used from what was down on the tablescape.
Interesting. Sam, did you use any in this move right here? And I'm just curious, like, what the name of this is. Oh, there we go. I wonder who the mole is. I didn't pick that up the first time watching it. So,
Okay, so I had on the table, I had this like whole plan of everything I wanted to do, because even though it was improv, I'm too paranoid for that. So I still wanted to plan everything. And I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to use this object and all those things. And then Stacy screamed that we had 30 seconds left, and I panicked and didn't do anything really. So I was like, you know what, just live it, have fun, who cares? That was that's what came out during that part, I guess.
Speaking of like coming out and going to the event, Ryan, any final words before we get to the final contestants here?
I don't have too much to add. I would say for me, what I wanted from the experience was a fun weekend to start, but also like I think I wanted to meet these people that I've known. I didn't know who was going to be there, obviously, but I had suspected some people that I knew was going to be there. And I remember the moment that I like pulled up and got out of the car, like people like, "Woo!" like Ryan, and like from that moment, like I was just like, okay, this is going to be a great weekend. And the thing that made me go there was about to echo and say Jamie. Because Shandy actually said it, I think, to Jamie or to me, where Shandy said, like, you're not going to miss something for Jamie. Like, I knew you were going to be here because it was something that Jamie was putting on. And I'm like, yeah, I can't even lie. Obviously, she didn't know for sure I was going to be here. But that was a big reason why I wanted to come. And it was just so much fun. I'm normally a very closed off person. I'm not a group chat person. Sorry, Shandy. That is not who I am. But being a part of this group has been a lot of fun, and I got a free purse out of the deal, so I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, you know what? I had that picture queued up too, but I
that
got the video.
Is worth more than the entire pot.
It's the greatest thing,
and that's not an exaggeration. It literally is.
I made sure it was on my shoulder when I got executed, and I was not walking away. It's my new journal holder right here. No, it was great, and I think it was been a lot of fun tonight, and super happy I went.
Sam, besides your World of Dance premiere here, any specific takeaways from this game here?
Nothing I haven't already said. I mean, it was just I like to do, not that I don't like them online, but it's a completely different world experiencing these games in person and being able to actually interact with everybody, obviously in a live format. And every single thing I experienced from the moment that I had my application sent in all the way until, I left the property that Monday afternoon, like Jamie has thought of every single thing and her production team had thought of every single detail. And it was just beyond what I ever thought it could have been. So for my first mole game and all that stuff, it was just such an incredible experience. And it's definitely something that even though I hopefully will experience more live games in the future, this is one I definitely think I'm going to take away for a very long time.
Nice. All right, folks, we're going to say bye to Ryan and bye to Sam once again. Boom, boom. They've been executed. But folks that weren't executed to the very end, we're going to bring them back here. We got Missy, we got Tyler, and we have Brian. So folks, Would you do it all over again? Missy, you going to be the mole?
I mean,
Or would
not
you
for a
rather be
very
a
long-
player this
not for a
time?
very long time, but I mean, yeah, I'm gonna play more games. Obviously, this was only my second live game, and I had the same stress as I did the first one, like 3 days before. Like, am I really gonna go? Like, I mean, but I had to. You know, it's like, okay, I can't let Jamie down, so now I have to go. And yeah, it was the most stressful thing. I mean, I've raised 2 children. This was the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life, ever.
It's just like a whole group of like 16 different children to run
Well,
around.
and I
the house
laughed because
trying
I
to,
kept telling
sabotage.
them, like, half of you are younger than my kids. I think Tyler's my son's age, like literally within a month. So
Yeah. And I frequently, for the better part of 48 hours, just called Missy Mom instead of
it's just
Missy.
the way it is.
We just developed that sort of relationship. I really felt like I had my mom there with me. It was great.
Yeah, and Brian too. If I can say something real quick, when Tyler won, I freaked out because Brian, you were winning this game. Like, at that point, like, I don't want you to take away anything from you because you were so, and I think it was Shandy that said to me, Brian is more worried about winning than he is about money. That's why Brian's going to try to act like the mole. He doesn't care about the money at the end. He just wants to win. And so that was like, oh, okay. So then that kind of shift. But so Tyler did not know. Tyler spent the very last challenge literally studying my dossier for the first time during the challenge. That is how Tyler won. He did not guess me. He did not know me. He did not know anything about me. Brian was winning. So I was just shocked. I was because that mind on Tyler, like, for him to learn these things that quickly and to do it in like 2 minutes or something. He came out of that room so quickly. I'm like, no way. Like, he didn't. Yeah, Brian's got this. Brian's got this. So
I think it's a testament to Tyler's mind that he was able to beat me. I had a good day and a half collecting notes on Missy and like studying, and I had them all laid out nicely and go. And the fact that he used, a short part of the afternoon to memorize everything and run away with it is just very,
and at
very
that point,
impressive.
we always talked about that. In a mole game, you get to the point where they know it's you. Like, at that point, it was just literally Tyler had.
You got about as damn far as one can get before they knew it was you. Missy.
Right. I mean, like, so at that point, they knew. I mean, Dustyn, I'm not lying when I say I took notes like a player. These are absolute proper notes. Like, those tabs are like, I literally, it was like some weird immersive therapy or something. I don't know.
It's like character acting. You really had to get into character and really go through the steps of being a player to become a mole.
And that's what I would tell anybody. If you're ever going to play a game and if you're ever going to be the mole, you get the least amount of information you need to do the job and play it like you would play it, like you were in the game, because it keeps you in the game, and right away you set up the things that you're good at. They know that I'm good at music, so there was no way that I was going to fail the 90s music thing. Like, I was always going to do really well on that, so I had to do really well on that. So just that, it was incredible to me to watch again. Brian from like day one was so sketchy. Like,
I had him picked as well. I'm just saying, even watching at home, I had Brian pegged right away.
I mean, and it was Shandy every night. I told Shandy I probably owe her therapy fees because she would come in and get her stuff out of the bedroom when we talk. And when she said that to me, it made me realize, okay, that is why Brian's being like this. I just didn't quite get where he was coming, because I'm like, Brian is smart. I played a mole game. I played the mole game where Shandy was the mole and Brian and I were in it. You know what I mean? So I know Brian's like really smart, and when he was doing things that were not smart, and I just like, please help me. So I just put myself with him because he kept doing sketches.
Between me and Michelle,
between Brian and Michelle, like, I was just able to play off of what they were doing, and in my head be able to say, I need to be in this group with this person because I know these 3 people are guessing Brian. So if I put myself with Brian, they're going to think that it's Brian still, and they're going to be around, and And it worked. It worked, but I did need to say that to Brian because I felt really bad. Like Tyler, I was so amazed, and that big hug. Like I felt that like you had he had given up. He was like, I'm not gonna win. It's not gonna happen. I'm like, I don't know. You, and it was just a shock. That's all.
I still remember what that hug felt like. I will never ever forget that.
I watched it. I watched it when I got home, and I'm like, I remember how that felt that moment because it was literally like.
I was truly, and like not an exaggeration, I was floored that I had won at that point because Saturday night I stayed up until approximately 3 a.m. writing down everything about Michelle and Katie in my journal because they were my only two suspects at that point. I took everything that I had written down about Missy and ripped it out of my journal and threw it away. I ripped it up into a bunch of little pieces so that nobody would go through the trash, and then I threw it away. So then Michelle gets executed when there are 5 of us left, and then Katie gets executed when there are 4 of us left. And I think to myself, holy shit, what have I done? Like, that's when I realized it was Missy. So I had to go back through and rewrite everything down during that final challenge. Luckily, it took about 2.5 to 3 hours, and I was able to just memorize everything that I needed to
And luckily, I wasn't allowed to go downstairs because my thought was I need to hide my dossier somewhere, like under the couch or under a cushion. I'm gonna have to go get it. But then, like Stacy or Tyler went and just got it for him and handed it to him on a gold platter. So
I asked for it because I realized I didn't have any information that I needed, and luckily I was able to get it. And there's a picture that it's been floated around our group chat and everything so many times of the moment that I kind of realized what was happening and that I needed to put all of my focus onto Missy, which when we got to the end, I'm like 95% sure it has to be Missy. Like maybe it's Brian, but I'm pretty sure people have gone out because they went all in on Brian. So there was still this small little bit of self-doubt in my head. And then there was the one moment that it hit me, and I can't remember if it was Michelle or Sam. Somebody captured a picture of me, and it's if I don't know if anybody has access to it or not, but if we can find it.
I had the front row seat to I think like your moment of the season.
The epiphany.
It was at the final 4 execution, and we had set it up so like the final 2 were Katie and Tyler, who hadn't seen their screens, knowing Tyler put all of his questions on Katie, so then Katie sees her screen and it's red. I have not seen like the look of just blood drain from someone's face so viscerally like in front of me, but like it was truly that like you really were.
It was sheer panic
then. Yeah.
As I sat there telling you, no, don't say that. You're going to stay. You're going to stay.
I forgot about this. Missy is holding my hand and like hugging me. And I lean over into Missy's shoulder and I'm like, bring it home for me, Missy. Bring home a win.
This is photo, y'all.
That's there. Yes.
That is
yeah.
I mean, that is literally him sitting across from me on the porch looking at me like, you bitch.
This is the best photo of the season. It's so good.
What did I do?
I leaned into Missy's shoulder and I was like, good luck. Bring it home. Bring home the win for me. Like
Well, I didn't know in the final 3 if Tyler knew it was Missy or if he thought it was me. Maybe he thought it was me. So what I did was the dossiers, the 3 dossiers for the 3 remaining players were laid out on the pool table. And so I went over to them and I put Tyler's in the middle and I spread out mine and Missy's. So then I sat back on the couch and I watched Tyler study them and I pretended to study and I was looking at him like, which one is he looking at? Is he looking at me or is he looking at Missy? And he was smart. He pretended to look at mine, but then I see him like doing side glances to Missy's. I'm like, yeah, okay, he knows it's Missy. I'm like, so I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to beat him on a memory final test. Yeah.
You're not beating Tyler on a memory test.
No. Yeah.
You're not.
However, we did make that final test brutally hard. I will say that it was not an easy final test.
It was the first time that I went in the room and Spencer's like, you don't have to take this one. I'm like, thank God, because here's me having to take every one because I need to know what the questions are. Because the first thing you do is you run out and go, well, Brian doesn't. Brian goes to everyone else and says, what were all the questions?
Clark, what were the questions? Clark.
And mind you,
we're done.
Missy is always taking the quiz while Spencer or I are quickly saying, Oh my gosh! So how is the round going? And remember, this is coming up. And remember, here's this memo for you.
And when they kept saying, "You're doing great. Nobody's guessing you," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, I was fully prepared to lose to Brian.
I mean,
had,
the amount of money I'm like, you guys could have won what, almost $600 or something was what the total would have been, and they ended up taking home $128.
Yeah.
So quite
Sorry,
impressive
Tyler.
for you and the whole cast. So
I did my damnedest to try to win that money, and
I
everybody
know you
else
did.
didn't want to. I did. So people were talking about the portraits that we got to make from various mediums earlier. So I ran downstairs and got mine because I did want to take mine home. That was one of my favorite tasks. And I got everybody to sign it before I left.
Aww.
And I have it. So I had to do
That's
a
a
self-portrait. I had to do a self-portrait with pipe cleaners and Scotch tape. And, you know, I was wearing a blue shirt that day, and I really tried to exaggerate the anatomy of the teeth because I am a dentist. So I was like, if I get really, really fine details with the teeth, people will realize that it's me. And then I believe a couple people, which I don't know if Missy, you knew this was me or you actually thought
I knew it was you, but as soon as you put red hair, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's Jessica because she's got red hair and she's
Yeah.
a dental assistant.
And yeah,
Oh,
Jessica's a
I'm like,
dental
this is
assistant, so the red hair
horrifying.
made
Who
people
is
think Jessica.
That's
Yeah, but
my
it's just
night
because
terror right there.
Yeah.
I have
Sleep paralysis demon.
I have everybody's signature on here, and it's hanging downstairs. I took it off the wall real quick, but I hung it up downstairs, and it's my fun little piece of memorabilia
That's
from the entire
great.
experience. And I would go play season 2 tomorrow if Jamie called me and was like, "Hey, are you busy?" Nope. What do you need?
My guess, you're at least waiting until season 4 for like All Stars or like comeback time. So I'm sorry, Tyler, that's gonna make you eligible for a few of them. So.
I will show up next season to wake the players up in the middle of the night for their surprise 3 a.m. task.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
I just want to say that, you know, this season was an absolute dream for me to participate in. The Mole is absolutely my favorite show. I'm a super fan of the series. So to get to actually play such a realistic feeling version of the show was absolutely a dream come true. I checked all the boxes that I wanted to accomplish off, except win, of course. But like I knew I wanted to come across as suspicious, so I put a lot of effort into seeming that way, with doing well in some challenges and then less than well in others. I was able to, you know, be the most suspected player throughout the season. Do well on the quizzes because I spread a lot on the quizzes. Like I got the highest test score on 5 of the 9 tests leading up to the final. And in the final round, I can't, you know, I couldn't have lost to a more intelligent, charming daddy than Tyler. So yeah.
At your service.
It was an absolute blast to play and an amazing to meet Jamie and Spencer and the whole production team. So I just want to say thank you. It meant a lot to me.
Cool.
I echo all of those sentiments. I remember Brian and I had a conversation. I believe it was the morning of day 2, or maybe sometime. Time is blurry when it comes to these, but it was definitely sometime on day 2, and we were talking. And I'm like, you know, I hope that one of us can win this. Like, if it's not you, I hope that it's me. And so to be up at the end with Brian was really cool. Like, I would have been honored to lose to him. You know, he was a fantastic competitor. I tried so hard, and I said so many Hail Marys that Brian would get eliminated because I was like, I feel like Brian is my biggest competition.
Same.
Yeah. But it was an amazing experience. For my very first live game, I honestly, the bar is so high right now. I don't know how I can get any higher, because the entire production was exactly what I thought it was going to be, tenfold. And I'm so impressed with everything. And I have so many new friends. I love it.
Well, if you ever want to try to jump it or maybe run into it, there are tons of other live reality games out there. You can check us out on Facebook. Keep up with our podcast, recaps, cast assessment, interviews, everything that we can do for this community here. Jamie and your whole production team, congratulations once again. Any final thoughts before I say subscribe and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, just a quick wrap up to the three of you. You all absolutely crushed it. Brian, thank you for bringing the stimulus value Spencer and I thought you would bring, which was being absolutely shady. That's what we really thought we would get from you, and you came through as like the ultimate smoke screen, and just getting to meet you was wonderful. Tyler, you killed it. You are an absolutely phenomenal season 1 winner. We are very grateful and thankful to have you in our pantheon of champions. It is wonderful, and just great job across the entire time. And Missy, again, I cannot say enough that you deserve so much love, appreciation, and credit. You are absolutely phenomenal, amazing, brilliant. You are an icon. You deserve so much care and respect for everything that you do, not just for this game, but for other people, period. So wanted to say that.
Thank you. And thank you, because you and Spencer literally put these people together, and you could not have done better. I really don't think you could have done better. I just am amazed at the variety of people that you chose and how well you put things, like everything was planned, and now look, I really do believe, you always say this when you play a game, you're going to be, but I really do believe that all of us, well, Shandy will make all of us have. They'll be like planning rides to my funeral in this group chat. That's how long we'll be in there. So thank you. And I will see you in Chicago. So we're making that happen.
Yes.
All right, folks, and we'll see you the next time on a live reality podcast,
Thanks,
whether it be about the
Dustyn.
mole, Survivor, anything. So make sure you tune in, hit that subscribe button. It helps out the community and helps games like this to just get more recognition and bigger casting pools and better help with production, so on and so forth. But pretty hard to pass up on such stellar reviews of this game. So make sure you go check Who is the Mole out on Facebook until season 2, folks. We'll see you then.